There you were, happily motoring along, talking to your spouse, joking back and forth, and you look up and you see what none of us wants to see, that blasted yellow light. So you stomp on the accelerator, and just as you're about to enter the intersection, boom, it goes red. You look around to your right and your left, you think, oh man, I'm glad there was nobody there to see that. And in just a second, this is what you hear. Yeah, it's not going to be a good day. Hi, Tony DeWitt here. I'm a Missouri appellate attorney, retired, and I bring you a fresh perspective on the law without offering any legal advice. So pull up a chair. This is what we're discussing today. Every now and again, no matter how carefully we drive, we wind up doing something we shouldn't, either through inattention or maybe we're in a hurry, maybe we should have left the house 5 minutes ago. Whatever it is, you hear those sirens behind you. You look up, you see the flashing blue lights or red and blue lights, whatever your state has, and you pull over peacefully to the side and know that A, you're going to get a ticket, and B, you're going to get a lecture. So you roll down the window and you wait patiently. So here is the first legal tip I have to give you. The officer has probably dealt with 4 or 5 people besides you today. He may have dealt with people who were ugly to him. He may have dealt with people who didn't believe they've done anything wrong. And you may believe you didn't do anything wrong. But the place to contest a traffic ticket is not at the side of the road. The place to contest a traffic ticket is in court. And so, absolutely nothing should come out of your mouth that is not sweetness and light for that officer because he has a dirty job to do. He has to deal with people a lot nastier than you are. And really, he just wants to go home tonight and say to his spouse, you know what? I met somebody really nice today. I hated giving him a ticket because that means you're probably going to get some kind of a break later on. So, what happens if you get a ticket? Don't panic. I'm going to walk you through exactly what happens and what your options are. So, first, let's talk about what a traffic ticket actually is. A traffic ticket is a citation issued by a law enforcement officer, and it accuses you of violating a traffic law. Now, in most states, there are 2 types of citations that are issued. The first are for moving violations. Moving violations are things like speeding, running a stop sign, reckless driving, careless and imprudent driving, whatever the state refers to that particular violation as, doing something while the car was moving that is against the law. Failure to signal a lane change, following too closely. All of those are moving violations that you can receive a citation for. And then there are non-moving violations like excessive vehicle noise, expired registrations, or bad parking. Non-moving violations are generally speaking much less serious and much less worth not getting excited about than are moving violations. While an expired registration will probably get you a ticket and you'll be told you can't drive the car till you get it registered, usually they will let you drive it home. Some states don't. Some states tow you from that point, and that really stinks, but that's the law. The officer does not have any discretion in those states not to tow your car. So you'll wind up with a tow bill on top of the fine for not having your license and registration up to date. But again, it's not a huge deal and it doesn't go on your driving record. However, even something as simple as 5 miles over the speed limit goes on your driving record if you're convicted of that, and it gets sent to your insurance company. And your insurance company suddenly realizes you are not the best driver in the world, like you told them on your application. And so they crank up the heat on your on the amount of money you have to pay for your car insurance, and that also stinks. So, knowing the difference between moving and non-moving violations is important because non-moving violations can generally be taken care of by paying a fine without any problem on your driving license or on your uh, insurance costs. But moving violations can always have an impact on your insurance. And so there are a number of ways to navigate this, and I'm going to tell you what happens in a lot of states but doesn't happen everywhere. When you get the ticket, it's going to state the alleged violation. It usually will have the statute or ordinance that you violated, the date and time, and instructions on how to respond. You have a deadline, usually between 15 and 30 days. You have to respond. If you ignore it, things get worse. You could be assessed late fees, your license could be suspended, and in some instances, a warrant for failure to appear could be issued. You don't want that to happen. So don't shove it in the center console and forget it. That's not a good approach. Instead, consider hiring an attorney. Here's why. If you go to an attorney, particularly somebody that does a fair amount of traffic law, and for example, in Missouri, there are what they call ticket clinics. You can go get a lawyer who does nothing but traffic tickets. Here's the way that works. He will go to the prosecutor in whatever jurisdiction the violation was issued for, and he'll say, hey, look, this guy has a clean record, or this gal has a clean record. Can we do her a favor and change this from a moving violation of going 5 miles over the speed limit to perhaps maybe excessive vehicle noise? And we'll pay the fine for, having a speeding ticket. We'll pay the actual amount that would, would work out to, but we just don't want to have a moving violation on the record. And in most reasonable places where this is done, the prosecutor says, sure, no problem. And that's what happens. It happens to get handled sort of off the books and doesn't go on your driving record, and you save money on your insurance. Now, you're still going to pay a fine, but you knew that the minute you saw the blue lights or the red lights, whatever they are. You knew that. So, very, very important. Moving violations affect your insurance costs, and they have to be dealt with, and they have to be dealt with in the right way. So if you do have a personal attorney, usually they can handle it. If you don't have a personal attorney, look for a ticket clinic. And if that doesn't work, find a personal injury attorney and say something to the effect of, I heard you guys can help out with parking tickets. Because again, a lot of times, like a loss leader in a grocery store, eggs 39 cents a dozen, parking ticket, taking care of a parking ticket for somebody can be a loss leader for an attorney because it doesn't involve a lot of time. It makes that person feel good. And who knows, they might send you a case at some point in the future. So that's how lawyers think about it. So, again, those are 3 ways you can find an attorney to handle something like this. And even if you go to a ticket clinic, they're going to charge you a flat fee for handling the ticket, but usually it's very worth it. In addition to the option of getting an attorney and dealing with it that way, you can just pay the ticket. It's the simplest option, and it often is the least expensive option, at least if you've not had other tickets and if you have a relatively generous insurance company. And if you have one, make sure you post the name somewhere in the comments because I've never run into one. I'm just saying. So you pay the ticket, the violation is recorded on your driving record, points may be added in states that put points on driver's licenses, and your insurance company may also raise your rate. Now, you don't have to have a lawyer to contest the ticket in court, but you can't just get up and say it's not fair, I don't like this, I'm mad. This guy, there were 3 people that went by me faster than I was going, he didn't pull them over. Forget it. That's not going to work. Here is what you do if you don't believe you committed the violation, or that the officer made a mistake, or that there are extenuating circumstances. Get the evidence together. If you have a good dash cam, And good dash cams are about $90 to $100 now at places like Best Buy. You can also get them online for a little bit less money. I know Amazon has them. And in addition to all of those, I think you can also get some from Walmart. I don't know what the quality is, but you can get them from Walmart. So organize your evidence, the printout from your GPS or from your dash cam showing that you perhaps stopped at that stop sign because your MPH went down to 0. Okay, that's pretty good evidence you didn't run the stop sign. The officer simply made a mistake. Sometimes, if the radar has not been calibrated, you should always ask about that. If it's a speeding ticket and they used radar, find out if they calibrated the radar, find out when, ask to see a copy of the log that they keep where they certify that the radar is working in good condition. Sometimes, if it's been a long time since it was certified, then a lot of times you can contest it and claim that the radar was not working. In addition to that, there's something called cosine error, and you can look all of this up on the internet if you want more information about cosine error. But particularly if you were tabbed for speeding on a curve, cosine error can work in your favor. Again, all things that you can do if you just go to court and you try and contest the ticket. Judges will sometimes be annoyed that you're contesting the ticket, but most will respect that you did the right thing. You didn't give the officer a hard time at the site of the infraction, and that instead you came in dressed nicely in a business suit or at least a shirt and tie, and it made a professional appearance and argued in a sane manner and didn't use a lot of four-letter words. Using four-letter words in a court is generally associated with very bad outcomes. Just pointing that out. Now, in some jurisdictions, not to suggest that I have ever, oh, the heck with it, I've done this, you can attend traffic school. So I had to get my kids back to their mother. I had them for a couple of days and I had to get them back. And I was running behind and I was doing 92 miles an hour on a highway in Missouri when I got the cherries and berries flying in behind me and they came in and the trooper was really upset with me because I had my kids in the car and he said, "All right, I'm not going to arrest you. This is an arrestable offense, but I'm not going to arrest you because you got your kids in the car. But I am going to give you a ticket." And so he actually wrote it for less than the amount of speed that I was going. I was going 92 and he wrote it for 85. So A, he wouldn't have to arrest me. And B, the court would actually treat me a little bit nicer. This happened in one of the few counties in Missouri, Callaway County. So if you're driving on I-70 and you see that big sign that says Callaway County, drop your speed to 69 miles an hour on the interstate. You don't even want to be 1 mile an hour over in Callaway County. The idea that they have some kind of discretion or judgment, forget it. You're going to wind up paying through the nose. So I did go to traffic school and I didn't get the points that way. But by the same token, it took about 8 hours out of a day, and that was absolutely no fun for me. So you can attend traffic school if it's a moving violation. Now, people often ask, is it worth it to fight the ticket? Well, again, if you have the evidence, the photos, the dash cam video, witnesses, those help. If the points are going to put you over the limit and cause your license to be suspended, it's definitely worth it. Now, attending court can take hours and sometimes require multiple appearances, so you have to balance the cost and the time. And you're probably going to need an attorney if you're going to contest it because you have a possible suspension coming if you don't. Sometimes, especially for minor infractions, it's just easier to pay the fine. But if you have a good case or the stakes are high, it could be worth it to contest it. So what happens if you decide to fight it? Well, you get a court date. The officer who issued the ticket will also be notified of the court date. In Missouri, usually what happens is the highway patrol officer writes the court date on the ticket for you because they have that ability to know what the actual docket is for the local county court. You go in, and usually it's what's called a docket call. Now, if you go into state court, it's a docket call. If you have a municipal ticket, a ticket that's issued by city police, as opposed to a county sheriff or a highway patrol officer, then a lot of times it'll be in city court and it may be a little less formal. But particularly in Missouri, it will go into Associate Circuit Court, which is where misdemeanors are handled, or sometimes infractions of the nature of speeding. And you will find yourself amongst people who are there wearing their absolute cleanest dirty shirt, and usually cutoffs in the summer, sometimes shirts with inappropriate messages on them. Uh, again, not everybody is as smart as you are, and you're going to find that you're in there with a group of people who, I swear, you'll wonder if they didn't get up that morning just intending to make the judge's day bad. So keep in mind the power of contrast. The power of contrast works for you because if you're there in a suit and a tie and you come up and say, "Yes, Your Honor," and "No, Your Honor," and "Thank you, Your Honor," "May it please the court," that's a good way to start anytime you deal with a judge. "May it please the court." You will find that you have instant respect from the judge and that you will be treated fairly, as opposed to the people who get up there and go, "Well, that officer was just a," fill in any four-letter word you want to put right there. That happens a lot. Judges see it a lot. And those people generally wind up, I would say, with higher fines than people like you and me who go in and I'm not saying be obsequious, but be pleasant and certainly be respectful. The judge or the magistrate will make a decision. Now, several years ago, I had a city ticket in the city of St. Louis, and the city at that time was using traffic cameras, which I believe are probably unconstitutional because how do you cross-examine a traffic camera? But be that as it may, I went in and I told the judge, who also happened to be the prosecutor. Now figure that out. Missouri does some really strange things, and the city of St. Louis does some really strange things. I told him, I said, "Look, I'm going to contest this. I don't believe that this is constitutional." And he said, just chill out a minute. Let me take a look at the video. So he gets the number off of the ticket. I was representing somebody else. This wasn't my ticket. He's representing somebody else. He gets the number off the ticket and he goes, well, I think he stopped. You're good. You can go on. And so I missed my chance to write a brief for the Supreme Court because I was prepared to take that all the way to the Supreme Court. It just didn't wind up happening. That happens a lot in the law. You wind up with situations where you would love to be able to do something that would make a difference for everybody, and sometimes it's just not worth it to the client. Now, here's an interesting thing. If the officer who wrote you the ticket doesn't show up, your case could be dismissed. Don't rely on that. It doesn't always happen. But if the officer does not show up to court, in most cases, you're going to get dismissed. You'll probably wind up having to pay court costs. I know that sounds bad, but the fact of the matter is, there's got to be a little give and take. It's just the price of having gotten the ticket in the first place. So you don't wind up paying a fine, but you do pay court costs so that it can be administratively closed. And because otherwise, if you're not willing to pay court costs, you'll just continue until the next docket day when the cop will show up. And then, having once extended to you the grace of dismissing your case, you won't get that a second time. The long-term impact of a ticket is, and even a small ticket can have major consequences. Like I said, the points on your license can add up. You can get insurance premiums that increase over 3 to 5 years. If you're a commercial driver, if you have a commercial driver's license, it can affect your employment. So while it might seem minor, it is worth handling carefully, and you always show up. If you get a ticket, don't panic. You can always call a lawyer. Don't ignore it. Read the instructions, weigh your options, respond prior to the deadline, and that's really about all I can tell you as far as traffic tickets go. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. That's what I have for you today. I hope you found it helpful, interesting, or maybe both. If there's a subject you'd like me to discuss, please feel free to send me an email at the address above. If you like what we do, please feel free to subscribe and come on back to the beach tomorrow. I release videos every weekday, weather and work permitting. If you have the opportunity today, do a kindness for your fellow man. It makes the world a better place, one kind act at a time. And now, YouTube has some suggestions for other videos of mine that you might like.